Hello, everyone. Erik Roth here, integral astrologer, with another episode of Science, Planets, and Stellar Rhythms. And I'm going to take you through the month of July 2026 and look at the forecast here. We're getting into the heart of this year, not just in when it comes to the calendar, but another big astrological wave coming in. The first wave was in the February through April period when we had the Saturn Neptune conjunction, and then the stellium in not only Pisces, but in Aries as well. But now we're really getting into things that are like that next stage of evolution that comes off of, in part, the Saturn-Neptune conjunction that happened back on February 2026. Okay, so this month is really full of a lot of really special and rare aspects here, particularly the with the outer planets. Um, and so we're going to mainly focus on the major aspects here, including the new moon and the full moon. Obviously, there's going to be other important things that are not necessarily discussed in this because of the limits of what for time purposes, I can only get into so many different things. But just know that that usually gets supported by shorter videos, maybe standalone videos, just something that you'll be looking out for in the near future that I'll be creating for this channel and on social media posts as well. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into July. So this is episode 85, the July 2026 outlook or forecast. This is episode 85 of Science, Planets, and Stellar Rhythms. I have another series called Planets and Signs that is on the same channel that I work with various planets, especially outer planets when they're moving into new signs. Okay, well, let's get into it. The main things that are coming up for the month of July, and this is not in the order of the month here. So the big ones are the Mars-Uranus conjunction, which happens on July 3rd/4th. Obviously, the sun will be moving into a new sign, this time in the sign of Leo on the 22nd. Mercury retrograde will end after a long retrograde period. It will end July 23rd. There is also a nodal shift. So the lunar nodes are moving into new signs. The outer planets align in an alignment called Barbault's Basket. That I've been calling a special planetary alignment. But I do mention Barbault's Basket in this video as well. Venus will be moving into Virgo. There is a Jupiter-Pluto opposition, which is part of the special planetary alignment that's taking place. That's happening in the second half of this month. Neptune and Saturn both go retrograde this month. And of course, we are going to talk about the new and full moon, and especially in combination with the nodal shift, will be leading into August and the eclipse season at that time. Okay, so here's just a brief look at the outer planets and where they're going to be degree-wise. Pluto is retrograding the whole month. It'll move from 452 to 410 Aquarius. Eris is slowing down. It moves slowly anyway, but it's going to slow down and getting ready for retrograde. I think it's in August. Moves just a little bit, 2 minutes from 2555 to 2557. Chiron, having moved into Taurus in June, moves all the way to 0051 Taurus at the end of July. And Jupiter, having moved into the sign of Leo on June 29th, as of this recording, this is June 25th. So we're still 4 days away from that, but it will reach 7 degrees Leo by the end of the month. Saturn kind of hangs around the same 14 degree, starts out at 1411, goes to 1443. And because it retrogrades towards the end of the month of July, Neptune retrogrades at the beginning of the month, and so it's going backwards and really not moving very far at all from 424 to 415 Aries. And then Uranus starts out the month at 343 Gemini and ends at 5 Gemini. So that moved in the sign of Gemini back in April of 2026. All right. So the first day of the month, there's a Jupiter Chiron square. And you got the chart here showing where this square is located. This is an emphasis on the bridge between the healing of our collective spirit and the healing of our physical bodies and co-creation with the earth. I did a whole video on Chiron and Taurus, so I definitely would refer you to that for the deeper look at the process there. But I will say that Jupiter's square to Chiron puts a strain on this square. Um, trying to expand the collective spirit and have a bold vision that will either just support the ego or perhaps it will expand our insights into what we must do to keep this planet and ourselves healthy, like the physical realm. That's the Chiron and Taurus energy. Because I've got here, the nurturing energy of Earth. If we don't really steward the Earth in a responsible way, care for it, we will continue to suffer. So the Earth itself is such a powerful co-creator with us. And if we continue to move into a direction where we're just going for profit, like many of these tech companies, not all of them, there are some organizations out there that are doing good, but they're just going for profit and trying to run up the numbers, so to speak. Then we're looking at potentially a future disaster that's even greater than what we have right now. So beyond July 1st, we have this other big one, which, I may create a mini video just on this alignment here, because this is a really powerful one. In fact, I would also refer you to a podcast, a YouTube channel called the Astrology Podcast by Chris Brennan. And he and another astrologer go over this. I think it's Dick Dagan Best that goes over this Uranus and Gemini transit and the Mars-Uranus conjunctions. I think it happens 4 times, series of 4 times in a 7-year period with Uranus and Gemini, which has contributed a lot to major events that have happened in the world of previous incarnations of Mars and Uranus conjuncting in the past in the sign of Gemini. So this happens at 3:52 Gemini at 11:07 p.m. Pacific time. It's also squaring the nodes within about 3 degrees of the nodes. So there's something definitely connecting to our future and past here with this particular conjunction. Again, this is like very, very late Pacific time on July 3rd. So most of the world, it will be experienced on July 4th. But Mars will be within a degree for a day or two with Uranus and will be co-present with Uranus all the way through early August in the sign of Gemini. So it's not just that it's just this one conjunction, but it's over about a 6-week period or so that this is happening. And then there will be another one in 2028, another one in 2030, and another one in 2032 between Mars and Uranus. So this will kick off a whole series of them. So what does this mean with Mars and Uranus conjunct? Well, this is one of not only the biggest highlight, one of the biggest highlights of the month of July, but one of the biggest highlights of the year, and is contributing to the special planetary alignment, the Barbault Basket. Mars is playing a role here, and Uranus is inherently unpredictable as a planet, astrologically speaking. And Mars tends to come in and wants to be this actional or active force. So something wants to be pushed out. Something wants to be, breaking through some barrier, some boundary here. And sometimes this can result in things that are in conflict with each other. But it can also result in a breakthrough in what needs to happen as far as peace relations go. So you can have one of those two extremes, or even sometimes both, in different parts of the world taking place at the same time. So this is factored, these two planets factored in heavily during the World War II period and helping usher in the atomic age as well, atomic slash nuclear age in the late 1940s, and and not only the end of World War II, but the start of the Cold War between the United States and Russia. Okay, then on July 7th, Neptune stations retrograde, and Saturn is exactly 10 degrees away at 1425. So Saturn, a couple weeks later, will station retrograde. So they basically, Neptune and Saturn really don't get too much beyond 10 degrees. They get close to, I think, about 7 degrees by the time the fall rolls around, fall of 2026. So Neptune will station direct on December 12th. So it'll go from July 7th all the way to December 12th, goes all the way back to 1.5 Aries. Saturn will go all the way back to just under eight degrees Aries as well. So this Saturn-Neptune conjunction period is still in force. Let's not forget, we're only a few months removed from that exact conjunction. And in 2025, they got really, really close as well. So we're still in the Saturn-Neptune period, astrological period here. And that's still creating space for liberation to happen for, the power of the people. In fact, I talked with other astrologers about this, and one of the common threads is like the power of the people. This includes Pluto and Aquarius kind of coming into the forefront, like fighting for rights, for what is right, justice. And it's something that I thought of when the beginning of the year when I was thinking of not only Neptune, Saturn, but all the other planets. And I was thinking that justice is coming. And I do feel like more of that energy is still going to unfold. It may not be in the perfect way that we think it's going to show up, but I do feel like there is a trend for that and for more liberation and freedom movements to come around. And, we've seen that in various other parts of the world already and other protests and movements that are taking place, including here in the United States. So stay tuned for more of that. And Neptune station retrograde is a time of pausing, time of reflection, even as all this powerful action energy is happening with Uranus and Mars and the special planetary alignment that's starting to form even right now in the month of June. So you could see, even at the time that Neptune stations retrograde, that Mars and Uranus are very close together, only about 2 degrees away from each other. This is, starting to form the trine with Pluto, and you're starting to get that, early indication here. Even Jupiter, having moved into Leo, is starting to form around here as well. So we'll talk about some of what that means, but it's part of this, I think, this enormous evolution of culture and community and civilization overall. And so Neptune station point is just a small part of all of that. Then we go into one of the inner planets, Venus. It moves into the sign of Virgo on July 9th at 10:22 a.m. Pacific time. And so this is bringing the energy of the greater patterning into our lives more acutely. This is the coming of the priestess and her desire for sacred space and stewardship of the earth. It's our connection with the earth and the care we provide as part of the responsibilities to be on this planet. I think this is certainly an addendum, an additional information, a depth of what the Chiron in Taurus transit, being an earth sign and dealing with the wounds of the earth and with our sense of value in the world, really shows up here. So the day after, I think that's not June 10th, July 10th, Venus enters Virgo. She conjuncts the south node, the lunar south node at 0039 Virgo. So that'll activate what behaviors and patterns we need to ditch to be of greater support in building a new pattern that will reveal the organic earth matrix buried under the artificial one. So we've got this, we've created this greater what we can call a matrix or grid, whatever word we want to use, overlaying over the deeper level of, the organic one that had been here for hundreds of thousands of years. And this new one, the artificial one, that has a lot to do with the material world that has been artificially constructed. I feel like Venus and Virgo is one of the helpers to help support and bring that organic Earth grid more into alignment here. So this is one of the things that we can connect with in ourselves. Venus will be in the sign of Virgo all the way from July 9th to August 6th. And again, that July 10th conjunction with the South Node can be a great time to really let go of old toxic patterns, things that no longer belong in our life. Then on July 14th, we have the Cancer new moon. This deals with compassion and responsibility toward family and community. It happens in the middle of the night here in the Pacific Coast, 2:43 a.m. at 21:59 Cancer. So there is a square of this new moon. Actually, there's a conjunction of Mercury retrograde here, as you can see, but there's actually a square to Vesta, almost a perfect exact. It's within 4 minutes in Aries, as well as Eris at 25:57 Aries. So we see some Aries warrior energy coming through, especially the strong feminine warrior energy coming through, the defender showing up in this Cancer new moon. So it not only has the heart and deals with compassion, responsibility, but hey, fighting for one's voice to be heard and to be seen, to know your rights out there in the world and to protect things that are needing to be protected in these massive changes that are occurring as well. So I think that Vesta Eris appearing that is happening in the month of July is helping to support all of this. So then we go into the Sabian symbol of the new moon, which is 22 Cancer, since we always add one to the main number of the original position of the degree, and that's the Sabian symbol. So this is a young woman awaiting a sailboat. This comes from Linda Hill's Sabian Oracle, who, as I shared before, was strongly inspired and influenced by Dane Bridjar, Mark Edmund Jones, and I believe Mark Edmund Jones's partner. The name is eluding me right now, but they really helped usher in this, especially Mark Edmund Jones and his partner, usher in Sabian symbols and kind of that. This is more of that transmission, that download that came in the early 20th century. So the key words of this is waiting for one ship to come in, escapist fantasies, travel, and the longing of escape, so that you see the horizon, you want to go in, waiting for that ship to come in to take us to our quote destination point. So this can also relate to opportunities and believing that things will eventually come to pass, a sense of hope, if you will. Um, but it can also be interpreted as exercising patience and knowing the inevitable will arrive. It's like having faith in something that's coming in. And it can also show that it could be a sense of letting go of control in our lives. It's trusting. It's like not forcing something to happen. And there are times in our life where if we force something to happen or try to force it to happen, it doesn't come in the way that we might want it. But if we let go, if we have faith, if we trust in our own who we are in our own pathway, maybe we have our trust in the divine, that things will work out in a way that might not only surprise us, but might really strongly benefit us in the long term. One of the things that we can let go is, that depending upon others for a vessel to arrive and transport us to a destination. And are we really waiting for that, or is it something that we can build ourselves and make our own luck in the world? And these are the questions we can ask ourselves during this new moon in Cancer. Again, this is happening at 21:59 Cancer at 2:43 a.m. Pacific time on July 14th. Okay, so then we move into the second half of the month of July, and that's where this special outer planet alignment happens. It's also called Barbault's Basket because of Andre, a French astrologer, Barbault, in the 20th century, came up with this and looked at this and saw other aspects in various time periods that showed this basket-like image on the chart. And I'm going to show what that means. But I wanted to share some of the dates with you here because you can see 2026, we've got the Uranus-Neptune sextile on July 15th. And on July 17th, we've got the Uranus-Pluto trine. We also have a Neptune-Pluto sextile in amongst this in these days as well. And then on July 20th, we have the Jupiter-Pluto opposition, which I'm going to talk about here too. All of that, all these outer planets are coming to alignment within just a few weeks of each other here in the month of July. And that energy will carry into August and September. In fact, this period we can say is the main core of it is from 2025, which started last year. 2026 is one of the center points, and then will go on all the way till early 2029. The Uranus-Pluto sextile, which is part two currently. Part one was in various decades of the 20th century, particularly in the 50s and 60s, I think into the 1970s and 80s. And then it kind of because Pluto picked up speed, it kind of got out of that alignment. And so we had a few decades where they weren't into alignment. Now they're back into it again, all the way until 2033. And then once that happens, then Neptune starts to really leave Pluto behind over a long period of time. We'll eventually, later on this century, get into a square with Pluto. Pluto and Neptune were actually conjunct in the late 1800s. I think it was 1892, somewhere in there, where they had their conjunction. That happens only once every 5 centuries, so it's a long time. So we're just these early stages where there's a sextile and then and then a square later. These are big deals for the evolution of civilization and humanity. So here on the chart, you can see I just got this is mainly looking at July, but showing the period where these plants are moving out into deeper into their sign. Even Chiron is going to be playing a role here. I've got another chart to show you about that. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 outer planets in their early degrees on one half of the chart, really forming that basket there. So there's not many people talking about Chiron and Taurus. There's some, but I think that Chiron is playing a role here. And I've got the blue lines showing all the different points of contact between these various planets here. And again, I'm highlighting the 2025 through 2028 period here, with 2026 being a really very strong year for it. Here's a deeper look at this and kind of a list of the aspects here and highlighting and circling these planets and how they relate to these other charts. So this is July 20th, the Jupiter-Pluto opposition at 426 Leo Aquarius. You can see these two are the ones that are holding the handles of the basket, so to speak. And then we have Uranus and Neptune on the other corners, the deeper corner and the bottom. We've got Chiron. So, all these planets are in their configuration right now. And this really relates to something emerging for civilization. It might not be just specifically on this day, but I think something really powerful and big over these next few years, and really starting in July, is going to emerge when it comes to humanity's evolution. Major and massive cultural changes, civilization changes, economic changes, and just the way we live. Some of this certainly has to do with the technological advances that are occurring, but also sort of this counterpoint to the technological advances. Those that are going against the grain of technology and wanting to live simpler, wanting to live more local. Um, and I think also spiritual evolution in periods where we may have greater understanding of our own humanity's path of enlightenment as a whole. Again, this is a very long journey. And so the main aspects here in July we've got here Pluto-Uranus trine, Neptune-Uranus sextile, Jupiter-Neptune trine, Jupiter-Chiron square, Jupiter-Uranus sextile. There's also I didn't list Neptune-Pluto sextile as well on this list, and then so you have all of those playing a role here, and of course Pluto Jupiter opposition, which is the title of this one here. All right, so then later in July, while this special planetary alignment is taking place, Barbault's Basket, we have the Sun moving into Leo, which will join Jupiter a few days later, and be in opposition to Pluto as well. So the Sun will be playing a role. In fact, you can kind of see right here, and by July 20th, you can see the Sun already in Cancer, just a couple days from entering Leo, and about 5-ish days later will conjunct Jupiter, and then there'll be that opposition also to Pluto as well, and the Sun will be part of this aspect here. Mercury still retrograde until July 23rd there. So the Sun of Leo, Sun in Leo, I should say, not Sun of Leo, Sun in Leo. So Leo is an archetypal sign that is about the king queen creator force in the world. It's a sign that best connects us with our solar creative leadership and self-love. It's a time to tap into our abundant visions and be bold about what we want. Are we ready to lead others to a goal and or ourselves into a promising and bright future? In addition, we can ask if we love ourselves, not from a place of vanity, but from genuine care and acceptance of our natural gifts and talents and the soul that is in each of us. So it's also how can we utilize our self-love and our creative gifts to contribute to community, contribute to our own personal evolution, and achieve what we want, have the courage to step forth into our path and achieve that of what we wish. And then also as that it outflows out into the world, supports and inspires others along the pathway too. Then on July 23rd, we have Mercury stationing direct at 1618 Cancer. I shared in my June video the map of Mercury as it goes through the twins constellation but in the sign of Cancer. So you see on June 29th, it's here. It moves all the way back to the body and legs of twins, all the way to 16 degrees Cancer. And then by August 9th, it's back to where it was before it went retrograde. That's part of what they call the shadow period of Mercury. And the Sun will be going all the way through here, be conjuncting Mercury along this pathway. And then the Sun will conjunct Jupiter too. But Mercury will not conjunct Jupiter until it got really close, got within a few degrees in June, but it won't conjunct Jupiter until August. So July 12th is when there's a Mercury Sun conjunction at 2042 Cancer. Okay, so then we've got Saturn stationing retrograde on July 26th, 2026 at 1444 Aries, still about 10 degrees away from Neptune, as I talked about before. And Saturn will go all the way back to 755 Aries. And we have this like Saturn not as part of these outer planet aspects. It's still about 10 degrees away, loosely connected with that. So there is some contribution there from Saturn, but it really doesn't make as much of a contribution as say Neptune and Uranus and Pluto and Jupiter do. during the month of July. Later on, when Saturn retrogrades backwards, it'll get a little bit closer to some of those outer planets by degree in their respective signs. So there will be some contributions that Saturn makes in that way there. And Saturn retrograde, like Neptune retrograde, is a time of pausing. It's related to the overall Saturn-Neptune conjunction period that we've been operating in as a civilization. And it's showing us where the rules and boundaries are, a time to pause and share with what we need to let go of, what boundaries that we've placed on ourselves that may be blocking ourselves from achieving what we want and speaking our truth, speaking our voice in the world. So Saturn plays a role in sometimes identifying, highlighting what it is that we need to shed, let go of in that way. But then on July 26th, the same day that Saturn stations retrograde, the lunar nodes ingress into the signs of Aquarius and Leo. And each time we have an ingress, just like Jupiter moving into a new sign, it's a very big deal. And this also relates to the eclipse season. In fact, uh, one of the upcoming eclipses will be in the sign of Leo in August of 2026. So the last time that the lunar nodes moved into Aquarius and Leo with the North Node in Aquarius and the South Node in Leo was between December 2007 and August 2009. And that was also the time when Pluto ingressed into Capricorn. During that time, we had the big economic recession, but we also had some massive cultural uh, overhaul and civilization overhaul during that time. And a lot of advances, technologically speaking, were coming around. It was also the advent of cryptocurrency. Bitcoin came out during that time as well. So we're seeing that there is some very significant potential here, especially as later on, I believe it's in 2027, late 2027, early 2028, when the North Node will be with Pluto. So that'll be something to look forward to as well. But the North Node Aquarius helps to co-create conditions for future advancement in interconnectedness universally while championing greater freedoms and independence and equality. It also supports leaps of technological progress and idealisms and ideologies. So Aquarius advances things, and the North Node is all about the future, all about our destiny. So being in this co-present with Pluto during this time means it's just going to amplify the transformational qualities, the ability to see the shadow of technological advancement, but also consciousness advancement, spiritual advancement. What does that look like to humanity? Well, this is a chance for us to really tap into it in a big way. And then for the South Node in Leo, this is a chance to let go of outmoded and toxic patterns in our collective and individual lives, especially around the ego. This is a time when the old leaders decline to make room for new visions and new leaders. I do feel like there's that potential, especially with Jupiter and Leo, for new leaders to emerge. I feel like there has already been some semblance of that starting to occur here in 2026, but I feel like more of that is going to start to rise up here in the coming months and over the next year. So just as a uh, basic look, the North Node or ascending node is symbolic of humanity's destiny or future, not deterministic. And the South Node relates to humanity's origin, ancestry. So if anybody who has any plants or points in Aquarius or Leo, beyond Pluto and Jupiter in their respectively in Aquarius and Leo, you're definitely going to be impacted by this really, really strongly. And if you have sort of at the midpoints there in Taurus and Scorpio, if you have anything there, then these nodes are going to be at the midpoint of like, especially if you've got lunar nodes there in Scorpio or Taurus, it's going to be kind of a highlighting that in between time of between future and past. and the midpoint there, and showcasing like some of this crossroads between all of the different worlds there in your own personal life. Okay, then we go into July 29th. There's a full moon in Aquarius at 6.5 Aquarius. This has to do with innovation and rebirth because, as you see here, the full moon is conjunct Pluto, and Jupiter on that same day is conjunct the sun. So this is again July 29th. Very big day. We have Pluto moon conjunction during the full moon. We have Jupiter Sun conjunction also during the full moon. So we see this massive energetic crossroads here. It has to do with a lot of creative energy, a lot of power and will and desire to go beyond where we are now, to go beyond the stagnancy, to dream big, but also to relate and connect into what wasn't working before and to compost all of that, to get rid of it, and to maybe perhaps something new comes out of that composting, something new comes out of something that needs to be birthed here. And this is, I think, really symbolic of this because of Pluto's position. The Sabian symbol, a child born out of an eggshell, you can see the colors of the rainbow coming through here. And I say that because it's Aquarius here. So it's one of the key words is transmutation, seeking the unusual, mutations. I talk about the star seeds and indigo children, people beyond their time. So this can be interpreted as an emergence and birth of novelty within a mystery container. So something novel within a mystery. It could be Pandora's box, knowledge from the sky, or simply an enigma that will not be defined. It is also interesting that the Pluto conjuncts this full moon, as I shared before. So I feel like something unexpected, something big is coming around during this time at the end of July, and that this full moon represents sort of this fruition point of what Pluto is trying to bring in for humanity and Jupiter's ascension here in Leo. So something really powerful, I feel like, and for people that have anything in the early degrees of Aquarius, Taurus, Scorpio, or Leo, you're definitely going to be at the impact of this in a big way. All right, so definitely, if you want to take a snapshot of this, you could do this here. This is something I'll post later on. But you could see all the different points here and all the major occurrences. This doesn't include all the different aspects that are happening in July, but you can see I've highlighted the special aspects. Barbault's Basket here at the end of the month, July 15th to the 31st, even though really the whole month of July is about Barbault's Basket, the special planetary alignment. And in the middle of that, we have the Jupiter-Pluto opposition. We have Mercury going retrograde throughout most of this month, and Saturn and Neptune stationed retrograde during this month too, with also Venus-Pluto opposition in the middle of this too. So Venus will join in this aspect for a short time as it goes through into actually, wait, the Venus-Pluto opposition that happened in June when Venus was in Leo. So no, that is not actually. Let's remove that because that is definitely not a thing that is happening there. So let's go back to this. All right, there we go. So, but the rest of it is right on target. We also have Venus-Uranus square because Uranus is in Gemini, Venus is in Virgo. There is that. That happens on July 13th. So yeah, you can take a picture of this and look at like all these major points here. And of course, I've got in big highlight the Mars-Uranus conjunction here on July 3rd. But again, for most people to be July 4th. I just happen to live on the Pacific coast. So it happens at the very end of the day on July 3rd. Okay, well, thank you all. Please like and subscribe if you care to. I would really appreciate that support and share with others if you feel like this will be valuable to other people. My website is inspiralnexus.com. And you can also find me at mystaralchemy.com, where I teach about the stars with Kaylin Castell and our co-creative efforts. And there's 3 full online courses there about using the stars and constellations in ceremony and in astrology, and how does that work in our own personal lives, including discovering personal stars and things that are related to that. So yes, thank you all for that, and I really appreciate you being a part of this and supporting me. Um, More to come. I'm just as a reminder, I'm do this every month, and I'm going to be creating a special video about Barbault Basket, or about this special planetary alignment, and to talk more in depth about what all of this means. So. Thank you all, and I wish you a merry and happy month of July. All right, bye.